Hey everyone, welcome back to the Bearded Talk podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I'm your host, Adam Mason. I'm a photographer in the Washington, D.C. area focused on weddings and storytelling. The goal of the Bearded Talk is to dive into what it takes to run a successful photography business and help people achieve their business and life goals. So if that's you, thanks for joining us. Let's get into it. So today we're talking about the cost of time. So this is part of our series on pricing, which is pricing yourself for long-term success. So to recap, it's the cost of your business, the cost of your job, of each job, and the cost of your time. So today we're in the last part of our series, and today we're talking about the cost of your time. And all this is really relative. And, you might think about comparing yourself to other photographers or entrepreneurs and how they're pricing things. I also think it's very valuable to realize that this isn't just how you compare to your competitors, but also how many hours do you spend on a particular client job? How much money do you want to make in profit each year, and things like that. So we're going to talk about that today. When it comes to figuring out the cost of your time, I think it's really valuable, firstly, to incorporate how much experience do you have in this particular job and what you're doing. So like I said in some of the earlier podcast episodes, when I first started, I didn't charge anybody for anything. I didn't really plan on making a business out of what I did. My goal was mostly to get experience. And I think a lot of times today, what I see are a lot of people who are just wanting to get experience and get paid for it. And I think there's validation in that sometimes, but most of the time, like if I wanted to learn from a plumber, I have zero plumbing knowledge other than knowing how to use the faucet and knowing how to turn on the shower and stuff like that. But other than that, I think it would be more humble and probably be more successful long-term to learn for free. I also think the value of learning for free is that as long as you set the proper expectations for your client or that project, is that you're kind of free to experiment and you're free to fail sometimes. And hopefully they know that the product maybe not. I mean, it could if you're really good and you're a prodigy, but it might not come out the exact same way that they would had they hired somebody with more experience. And that's okay. But I just think it's always good to kind of set those expectations accordingly. If you charge somebody $500 for something that you've never done before, that's really tough to sell if they relied on you and then something failed or a piece of gear messed up or you couldn't deliver the photos or you don't have enough money to buy an external hard drive. And so just those things to think about when pricing yourself when you're just starting out. I would say experience beats money every day. When I think about the cost of the time, the main thing for me is I think about how much profit do I want to make? And so thinking about the last two episodes with the cost of your business, the cost of a particular job for a client, and the cost of the time, how much profit do I want to make? Which is money that's not going to go towards those things. It's not going to go towards the cost of my business, my long-term stuff, my Dropbox subscription or Adobe Creative Cloud or anything like that, or even new gear. It's not going to go towards the products. It's not going to go towards travel or meals or hiring employees or anything like that. It's just how much money do I want to save, or how much money do you need to pay yourself to pay your rent? Say you don't live in where you work. That's not something that's covered under business, and so you need to pay for that personally. And so if it's your full-time job, you'll need money to pay for that. But if this is your second job, or if you're overlapping, it's a really good way to figure out how much profit you want to make. And if you're saving for a particular object, or you're trying to just save for the long term, or figuring stuff out, this is a really great thing to do. And so when you're thinking about the cost of time, think about these two questions. Do you need a part-time income, or do you need a full-time income? And so for some people, they're starting out or they're overlapping, they just need a part-time income. Hey, I would like to make about an extra $1,000 a month from doing this. That would be awesome. And so if you have 2 jobs a month, you need to make $500 off of each of them. Great. That's fantastic. The other thing too is how many hours do you spend per session? The more hours you work, the less value you get per hour. And so I think when you're starting out, that's totally fine. So if you do the math, sometimes I think when I first started and the first few of my paid gigs, I'd only make like $9 an hour, which, is totally fine if you're doing something that's minimum wage. But in the photography industry, that's not really sustainable. And so, but when I was starting out, I was mostly all about experience. And so that was really fun to kind of figure that out. And it also helps you figure if you could do things faster, would you in theory make more money? And then also too, if there's certain gear that'll help you do things faster, should you buy it? How it'll be worth it and stuff like that. Also too, when you're first starting out, I think it's important even if you don't make anything, just to know that your cumulative time doing what you're doing, whether it's editing or shooting or designing albums or emailing, you'll just know the process is so much better and more intimately than you would if somebody else was doing them, or if you're already making what you wanted to make and you could just not care. I think you'll kind of have that intensity that entrepreneurs have when it comes to looking at the small things in your business and establishing those and really getting a good relationship with them. So just to recap, we're talking about cost of time, and I know this is kind of a short one because I wanted to make it really valuable, but it's how much money do you want to make? Do you need a full-time income? Do you need a part-time income? How many hours do you spend per session doing the work around that particular session? So whether that's emailing that client, how much time did you spend driving, eating, editing, exporting, uploading, tagging, etc. All of that. Calculate that time. Spend some time, maybe a week. Calculate all the time that you spent that week doing particular jobs and see how much money you're making per that job. And that'll be a really interesting experience, I think, for everybody. But when it comes to the pricing strategy of pricing for your business, pricing for the cost of the job, and pricing for your time, this will help you long-term think about how much money you need to make, how many gigs you need to take. For a lot of wedding photographers, what we think about is how many weddings at our lowest cost do we need to take. So for some photographers, that's 20, and then they're totally content. Like they can pay off all their bills and everything personally. They can, rent a house, etc. And some people, they need to have 30 weddings minimum, which is kind of risky. You have to have 30 more clients. And so kind of figuring out that balance, something we'll talk about more. But I think that's the main goal, is figuring out what you need to do for long-term success. Lastly, I really want to talk about my own personal philosophy when it comes to pricing. And I know I've given a lot of my own insight throughout the last few episodes, but I think this is really important when you're starting out. And this is how I started out, and I don't want to prescribe what I did to anybody else. It's very important to be humble when you're starting out. So I always suggest to people when they're first starting out to just not charge anything. Price low and do things for free and set the expectation that you're not a professional. I know that sounds scary because you're like, no, I want to be professional. Businesses and clients will know what they're getting as long as the expectation is set. So if they hire somebody who's a professional, who says they're a professional, there's an expectation there that needs to be met. And even if you can meet it, because of your lack of experience, there might be a chance you might not be able to meet it. And I would say always do the sure thing when you're starting out. Don't take a lot of risk when you're starting out as far as pricing and stuff like that. Take the risk in the art. Take the risk in, if you work for a coffee shop and you want to make a cool new coffee drink, do that. Like, that's what Starbucks makes their money off of now. I've never ordered a Pike's Peak or whatever it's called. Like, I always order like the crazy new Frappuccino, or I'm not very basic, so I don't drink the pumpkin spice lattes. But anyway, like, somebody came up with that idea, and that was kind of different. So it's a experiment. Like, have fun when that happens. Secondly, the best thing you can offer a professional when you're asking for their advice is free work. That sounds crazy, and I know everybody's time is valuable sometimes, but when it comes to your expertise, expert or professional, their time is more valuable at that thing than it is for you. And that's just a humbling experience that everybody has to go through. And so my experience was I offered to work for people for free. I would go shoot bands for free, or I would go shoot my friends for free. And that really helped me kind of learn the trade. It also helped too, and this is the biggest thing, in community over competition. It helped my experts that I was looking to trust me more because they knew that I cared about what I was doing, not for the money. Because photography, especially nowadays, it can be pretty lucrative. And a lot of wedding photographers or commercial photographers do very, very well. And that could be like pie in the sky, and we love that. But really, that might not be where you're at yet. That might not be where I'm at. I still feel like I'm hustling, and I still take jobs for free for things that I care about, or I want to learn something, or I'm trying to certain business strategies. And so really take the humble approach. Like, if you learn something more in 4 hours of working for somebody for free than any class or something you bought online, like, that'll be so valuable. I think that's really important. Being an assistant too, even if you never get to touch a camera, I think is super valuable. If you just say, hey, I'm available, I want to learn, teach me. People love people who want to learn. I love when I get photographers or just people who are interested in subcultures of photographers who are like, hey, can I assist you? Can I just hold a flash? Or, some people don't even know what they're holding. They're like, hey, can I hold that big white thing? The reflector. And I love that because they just want to make themselves available. They just want to kind of know, they want a glimpse into it. And I love that. That's the best way. And you know who I'm going to reach out to when I need help is not the other photographers. I'm going to reach out to the people who made themselves available. So I know this is a little bit ranty, but you'll get so much more work. The people that I refer to are the people that were just available. The people that I give weddings to that I can't take are the people that were made themselves available and were humble and didn't expect anything. I love that. And those are also the people that I hire and like pay the most money to now. So it's kind of worked in a kind of reciprocal way. And so I just advise you to just find professionals, offer your time for free. If they say no, find some more. Like, keep helping, keep figuring it out. Whatever you want to shoot, go shoot for free. If you have a bigger name than somebody else, like, you can always start charging more. So I think that's important, is just trying to figure out how you can build your body of work. You know, like I said, I use a plumber, which I don't know why I use an example, but a plumber can say, I've installed 11,000 toilets in this neighborhood, which I don't know why the plumber talks like that. And that's a lot of toilets. But you get my point, is that he or she has done so much work and they can point to their body of work and the majority of it is going to be great, hopefully. We don't have that when we're starting out. We've got a few photos and many of them we're probably like, we're ashamed of. But also too, remember that professionals, if you ask them and you're humble about it, they would be happy to look at your portfolio and say, hey, what are you going for? Hey, how can I figure out what I can do to help you get this? Also too, a lot of professionals around your area are aware of forums and groups and things and that you can get involved in where it's more free help. And so I would encourage you, definitely pursue those options. Pursue that as if you could not have to charge money for what you wanted to do anyway. And I think eventually you'll make money at it. And so that's basically it. My basic structure for pricing yourself for long-term success. Obviously, we'll get into the nitty-gritty over other podcast episodes, or if you have a specific question, feel free to email me. I think we're going to add a frequently asked questions section to the show where I can just answer questions and kind of help out, because I know that I just kind of rush through things and I'm trying to slow those down, but I also want to give you the most valuable value I can in every episode. So thanks so much, guys. You matter. You're awesome. Email us at thebeardedtog@gmail.com or find us on Twitter at thebeardedtog. Ask us your questions. Join the Facebook group. And let's keep going. What can we do? How can we engage more with each other? And how can we help you on the road to success? Thanks so much, guys. I'm Adam Mason. Thanks for being here.